Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Average Superstar TV. I'm your host, Lauren Lepre. Please subscribe to this channel. Please give a like, comment, and share. We have a new episode. It drops every Monday morning at 5 a.m. We're also available on Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. In this episode, we jump right back into the horror movie world. Folks, we got a special guest here. This guy is, for all you horror movie fans, this guy's been involved with the documentary Never Sleep Again. For all of us who love Nightmare on Elm Street, he was one of the producers. He also has his face in the other documentary of our other favorite horror movie icon, Jason Voorhees, for his name was Jason. He is also the founder of Dread Central. And for anyone who is a big fan of the new clown in town, Art the Clown, Terrifier, this is the guy that got him signed. So for everybody that's loving Terrifier, this is the guy that brought Art the Clown to the big time. So with that, I say welcome to the show, Uncle Creepy, Steve Barton. All right, brother. So listen, let's go right back to the top because we are horror movie fans, and we all have that origin. So from the time you could remember, where did it all start for you?
Oh, Jesus. It's funny. A lot of people, they had their defining moment in their 30s and their 40s. I had mine when I was 3 years old.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy because I remember it like it was yesterday. I grew up in the 70s. I was born in 1972. So when I was a little kid, we had this giant ass black and white TV in our living room. And it was the kind of TV that, when it broke, you just said, fuck it. And you put another TV on top of it. And now it's furniture. So, early recycling, man. But I knew even at like an early age that the good shit was on late at night, on TV. So I would wait until I heard my parents sleeping or snoring or whatever the fuck they were doing. And I would tramp my ass out into the living room about usually around 1, 2 in the morning. And I'd turn on the TV and I would just zone out, dude. And one night I was sitting there doing my thing and I turned on the TV and all of a sudden I saw this newscast about the dead coming back to life and how we needed to get to rescue stations. And I was like, and I remember thinking to myself, holy shit, we're in trouble, man. We gotta get to these rescue stations, So I ran into my parents' bedroom and I turned the light on and I'm like, the dead are coming. We gotta go. And I said that to them and they were like, oh, you're having a nightmare. You're having this, you're doing that. And I'm like, no, man, this is for real. And so I grabbed my mom I grabbed her arm and I pulled her out of bed. And my dad was so pissed off, but he came as well. And I took them both into the living room and I pointed at the TV and I said, look. And of course, what was on was Better Than Living Dead.
Of course.
And I got my ass kicked that night. First time I was ever spanked. First time my little lily white Irish Italian ass felt pain. And
how dare you wake daddy out of his sleep?
I know, dude. Especially an Italian Irishman.
Yeah.
So when I was laying in bed that night with my fucking ass throbbing, I realized, I was 110% safe, 110% terrified. And I just thought that was the coolest feeling, So that was the exact time that Uncle Creepy was born, when I was 3 years old. Because I had the bug. And horror fans, we have a sickness, we consume everything. If it's horror, we watch it. even if we know it's going to be terrible, we still tune in. And you know, a lot
We've
of
been on a streak of that lately.
yeah, a lot of people say to me when they hear the name Uncle Creepy, they're like, it's kind of a strange name. And they look at me weird. And I'm like, well, listen, when I was growing up in the 70s, there was a magazine called Creepy. And Uncle Creepy was like, he was like the magazine's crypt keeper, you know? And I took that pen name when the internet was in its infancy. And, you know, had I have known what it would come to mean later on, I probably would have been a little more selective, really that much, you know? But it stuck. And it's been such a blessing. And, you know, my first job, dude, and you're Italian and you live in New York, your first job is to work in a pizzeria, right? So one summer, I fucking got my first job. I was 11 years old, you know, and I was working in a pizzeria. And the reason I got that job is because like VHS tapes had first like started coming out. And the idea that I could own Night of the Living Dead on tape just
For
was
$20 or $30, yeah.
$20 or $30. No, my friend,
Oh,
that shit when VHS was in its infancy.
oh, probably 50, 60, right?
No, $99.
Wow.
I worked the entire summer to buy the Media Home Entertainment release of Night of the Living Dead on VHS. And I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've watched that. And it was worth it to me, man. And you know, growing up was weird because like a lot of kids when they're growing up, they have, you know, sports figures or cars or even chicks in bikinis or whatever, or dudes in flexing. I don't know, whatever floats your boat. I don't give a shit. But me, I had like Leatherface and Pumpkinhead, Tall Man, and all these horror icons all over my fucking room. And I'll never forget, you know, one time it was my mom said to me, you know, what are you going to do with all this? This is all you do. This is all you talk about. You're never going to make any money with it. And I'm like, well, we'll just see about that. And lo and behold, God, decades later, probably when I was like 26 or something like that, you know, I'm a 4-year-old. I will always be a 4-year-old. I am the kid at heart. I refuse to let the old man in here because once you let him in,
You're gonna die, or yeah. That is the key to staying young and living a long life.
yeah,
Be responsible, do your job, pay all your bills. But the minute you lose that kid, it's over.
yep, there's no trade backs, man. So I'm not letting the old dude in. And when I was 26 years old, uh, you know, the girl I was with at that time, she had bought me, maybe I was like, it was somewhere between 26 and 30. I don't fucking know. But the girl I was with at the time, she bought me a roaring Jurassic Park cage. And basically what that is it was a cardboard box that looked like one of the containment units, and you press a button on it and it would go rawr, right? But to me, I was like, that's cool as shit, right? So the dude selling it was he ended up being my neighbor, you know, and he called me, he said, hey, I have this thing, you know, I mean, I literally live down the block from you, rather than me putting it in the mail, how about I just come drop it off to you? And I'm like, sure, dude, that's fine. And I go and I sit on my stoop. For you people listening, not on the East Coast, the stoop is what we call our front steps here in the Northeast. And who turns the corner but Tony Timpone of Fangoria magazine?
Wow.
And I'm looking at this cat and I'm going, dude, you're Tony from Fangoria, right? And he's like, hey, yeah. And I'm like, holy shit. And from there, we became fast friends. And, you know, he knew pretty quickly in our relationship that when it came to horror movies, I knew my shit. And back then, again, it was like the infancy of online. The internet wasn't.
Before that, you really had Fangora, and like there's only a few more outlets. Those magazines were that particular one was the one you went to the magazine store where you're flipping.
Sure.
And finding stuff that you never heard of. And for a guy like me who lived outside of Scranton, and I grew up with 3 channels, I didn't see. I was like always writing stuff down. Like I'm like I've never, if it didn't make the video shelf,
Right.
I didn't know about it in that area. So that was the outlet.
Yeah, man. And like I said, the internet was in its infancy, and Fangoria had just launched its first website, or its only website. Well, there's been several iterations, but they had message boards, and Tony asked me if I wanted to be a message board moderator, and I was like, "Well, fuck yeah, I do. I mean, I'm working for Fangoria, of course."
Damn right.
And of course, there was zero money in it, but I don't care. I'm still working under Fangoria, and that was like
everything's a start.
Yeah, that was awesome to me.
Yeah.
And I did that for maybe 2 years, and people began knowing who I was, and it was kind of weird. And to be honest, it's still very strange and absolutely humbling to me when somebody is like, "Hey, you're blah blah blah," and I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of am," And but anyway, within a couple of years, he gave me an opportunity to go to another company, which I shall not name because every time I do, they appear like Candyman, and I fucking hate them. And it was another horror company that was going to launch what they wanted, or what they intended to be, the first horror television network for fans, a cable TV channel like Sci-Fi is for sci-fi. And one of the things I did, because I had so many ideas, and Fangoria wasn't letting me implement any of them, because at that point, again, they didn't really see the value of the internet, and they were more focused on their magazine than they should have been, to be honest with you.
So you were, in a way, you could say Fangora wasn't going with the times. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah,
somewhat, yeah. But they were there, but they weren't ready to dive in.
Yeah.
And who could blame them? It wasn't a proven model. But I had all these ideas, and so with this other company, they let me implement these ideas. And one of the things I came up with was Dread Central. And Dread Central was supposed to be a TV show. It was supposed to be like sort of like the Entertainment Tonight for horror fans.
Okay, awesome.
And after a while with that company, I think like 2 or 3 years had passed, and it kind of became apparent that it wasn't going anywhere, and we parted ways. And I was like, oh, I'm out of here. But what I didn't expect was for literally 98% of the website staff, most of which I put together, because when I started Dread Central, I went to fans. I didn't hire professional writers. To me, I wanted the fans to be the voice, and that was always very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And 98% of the people that were working under that masthead quit along with me.
Wow.
And
that's called a changeover right there.
That was, I think it was very shocking to them. I got to tell you, it was shocking to me. I didn't expect that. And again, I did that job for 2 years for free. And now I'm through with that company. I'm through with Fangoria. What do I do next? And Dread Central had become a little bit of a name. And my partner at the time, John Condit, and I sat down and we talked about it. And we're like, well, what do you want to do? You want to do this? And we said, well, yeah, let's just see what happens. So we launched Dread Central on July 4th, 2006. And
that long. Wow.
And it was very much about the fans. and it was very much about my vision for Dread Central was to give the indie horror filmmaker as much exposure as the studio filmmaker. And that's where we made our bones.
And that matters so much for filmmakers like myself and probably a lot of them that are watching.
I mean,
it
was very important that I had done that. And it was very important to me that be Dread Central's mission statement. And it gained ground. It gained so lucky that it gained ground and gained as much traction as it did. And I am the co-founder and I served as editor-in-chief of Dread Central for 18 years. And, after that, I mean, as it always happens, the bottom kind of dropped out of the web industry. It's really hard to make money online nowadays. Really hard.
Or as a filmmaker.
Yeah, as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was always most proud of with Dread Central was we didn't have a parent company. We never had a parent company. We did what we wanted. Our vision was our vision. Our words were our words. Nobody was telling us what to do. But in the long run, maybe 16 or so years later, became apparent that we had a choice. We made a last ditch effort on Patreon to save Dread Central. And what that was just if all of our readers, of which there were millions, would just kick in $1 a month, they would have gotten the site ad-free. No, nothing, dude. Just the site, nothing else. They wouldn't have to look at ads. They wouldn't have to deal with pop-ups. They wouldn't have to deal with fucking spyware. And, the whole thing was, they could get the same news or reviews free anywhere else. So at the end of the day, even though we had tremendous industry support, and we did a modest amount with the fans, but at the end of the day, people want shit for free.
Yeah.
And the Dread Central model of you get the site ad free for just $1 a month was
still too much.
Yeah.
Or it's the pain in the ass, There's some people it's just a pain in the ass,
Yeah, I mean, and I get it. I'm not faulting nobody. It was what it was. So we ended up getting a parent company, and the parent company was Epic Pictures Group. And, there were some creative differences between myself and them. And as a result, I stepped away from my baby. I said, this is something I can't do, what you're asking me to do. And it's not like they were asking me to do anything, fucked up or anything like that. It wasn't me, it wasn't something I felt.
It wasn't your vision for anymore.
Exactly. But that'll kind of lead into, I guess, the second part of this discussion when you want to hear a little bit about a movie called Terrifier.
Yeah, I think a few people might want to hear.
Well, one of the things, I have zero regrets, Lauren. I really do. I mean, if it wasn't for meeting Tony Timpone, I wouldn't have worked for the other company. If it wasn't for the other company, I wouldn't have made the contacts that I have. Under Dread Central, I got to meet and befriend and work with a lot of my idols growing up.
Yeah.
Including George Romero, who became a mentor to me, and Sid Haig, who became a mentor to me. So
right, guys,
you're getting mentored by George Romero and Sid Haig.
I always say that too. Is like in a situation like me, I've been in close to about 100 independent films, and guys, like 60 of them you can't even find. But I know what you're saying about like you could be on a set with someone though that's mentoring you. You're still learning, even though I can't point you to go watch it.
Absolutely,
it's a learning experience.
Absolutely.
Some of these people are with names, so it all leads to something. It all leads to a network.
Sure.
Yep.
And, the contacts I made there have been both professionally and personally the best of my life. I mean, when shit's going wrong in your life, I got to call George Romero. I got to call Sid Haig and said, "Hey, what the fuck do I do about this?"
Yeah.
I mean, those two cats are legends, man.
By far.
And you sit there and you think about that. And if Sid Haig or George Romero, people like that, if you're ever lucky enough to befriend them, that's like the equivalent of Bigfoot deeming you cool enough to know that he exists. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So I learned so much and was taught so much, and I cannot tell you how grateful I am to have been able to work with everyone I've worked with, and just it's been such an amazing ride. And so that'll kind of lead into Terrifier.
Yeah.
Epic Pictures Group wanted to have Dread Central become like the name of their horror label. Epic Pictures had put out a ton of great horror content. They did that Tales of Halloween. They did, The Lodgers, really, really solid stuff. And they wanted to leverage the brand Dread Central to be, their DVD, Blu-ray line. And so it fell upon me and a few other people in the company to start fielding movies and start watching them and come up with something that we wanted, that we thought would be a good debut release. And one of the first thing I found was the Kane Hodder documentary.
Great flick. Great.
Incredible, and such a pleasure to work with those cats. And so I picked that one. But I have to be honest with you, man, just about everything else I saw was terrible. Abso-fucking-lutely terrible.
They're out there, man. They are.
And here comes this little flick called Terrifier. And I put it on, and I'm watching it, and it ends, and I'm like, was that as fucking good as I think it was? So I started it. I went back to the beginning, and I started it over, and I watched it again, and then I watched it again. I watched it like 3 times in a row, and I called up, Epic, and I'm like, "This is it. This is the one. This is it. This is the movie that we have to lead with." And they acquired it, but they kind of
Were they scared of it a little bit?
yeah, and
Scene, yeah, I didn't know if that was it.
after a while there was a lot of things brought up and a lot of trepidation because Terrifier is a bit of a hard sell, and there was talk of having everything done to it, from changing the title to editing the movie.
Yeah,
One of the people I was dealing with directly at Epic, who's no longer there, he straight up said to me, "This is unsellable. No one's going to want to watch this. No one's going to do that." And it got to the point where I said, "Listen, if this movie doesn't perform the way that I know it's going to perform, I will quit. I will leave. You have my company. This is the one that's going to do it." And I was absolutely ready to put it all on the line.
you did with that.
And I mean, and the reason, I'll be honest with you, don't think I'm like this great champion. I mean, there was a lot of trepidation with me in them, and this was the last straw for me. You know what I mean? So I was like, if this doesn't work, I will quit. You can have the company. I will walk away. And so they took the chance on my ranting and insistence and telling them this has to be released the way that it is. You can't take a movie like Terrifier and edit it and have it be Terrifier. It won't work, right?
Yeah, you're watering it down. You're gonna make it generic.
Yeah, it had to be exactly what it was, and that's what Damien Leone and Phil Falcone and everyone who worked on that movie,
The Levy brothers, everyone, yeah.
the Levy brothers, David Howard Thornton,
Yep.
Jenica and everybody. They created this amazing movie, and it got to the point where it felt like the only people who were believing in it was myself and the filmmakers. And even we started arguing because I was getting so much pressure from Epic, and movie
I think they probably wanted the first scene cut down or completely out, right?
It's so much. But the movie came out and it found its audience, and it's been, knock wood, so embraced, and it happened so fast, and even though it was successful, I ended up walking away from Dread Central.
Crazy. It's crazy that you brought in basically the new horror movie icon. It's about to probably be a par one day with the other ones, and that was you're leading it to water, and now you're not there. It's weird, man.
Well, I am still there in the Terrifier camp, and I'm lucky to be there. But Terrifier ended up being the swan song of my relationship with Dread Central. And you know what? I couldn't have asked for a better swan song. I couldn't ask for a better note to go out on than to
by far, yeah,
some small hand and bringing something to light that the fans absolutely loved, and I've said it 100 times. Damien likes to say things like I'm, the movie's champion, and David has echoed those thoughts as well as many other people, but it wasn't me, man. That movie is just that fucking good. And the only thing I did was insist that this movie is that good, They did all the heavy lifting. They did all.
They're a great unit.
Yeah,
like David, Damien, like Phil. I mean, they're all the Levy brothers, Steve. They're just one good unit. They got it,
To have my name even remotely associated with that is an honor to me, and I mean that with every fiber of my being. I am so humbled by the reaction Terrifier has gotten. And in a way, it's also like vindication, because I'm like, you see, I was fucking right.
Damn right you were. Yeah.
And that's such an amazing, dude. I had just moved back to the East Coast, and
we only get so many, if you want to say the word icons.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean?
A lot of
people, really, and like you're the one that led the horse to the water,
But there's a lot of people out there who try to create new icons, or they try to create cult classics, and few of the filmmakers who do this, the trap that they fall into, or what they end up dealing with, is you can't make a cult classic.
This has to happen. Yeah, I know.
The audience makes the cult classic. The audience that it finds are going to be the ones to champion your project into becoming a cult classic. So it's ultimately the horror fan that decides who the icons are, what the classics are. And it blows my mind, man. The first time I saw the line for Terrifier at a convention, and just seeing how many people, like live and in person, because I was over on the West Coast this whole time.
Yeah.
And this was the first time I got to see how much this character in this movie meant to people. And Lauren, I fucking teared up, man. It was just such an amazing thing to witness, and to even think that I'm a part of that. That just, and again, I was fucking right.
Yeah,
and
right.
And it was just such an amazing thing, and it's turned into a phenomenon, and it's only gonna get fucking bigger,
Yeah, it is. I was at the second shoot for at least 15, 16 days. So like, I was, help land a location. Everybody keep an eye on who's playing the DJ. And it was some great, I just loved, those guys are great. We all gelled. I did everything I could. I did a little part to help the film, and it was awesome. And that led me back to you. And it's like it's just one big family.
Yeah,
I mean, it is. It's just great to be a part of all that.
I will lay down my fucking soul for the Terrifier crew in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even have to think about it. That's how excited I am to be a part of this family and how much I believe in Damien's vision and Phil Falcone and the Levy brothers. I love those cats, you know.
Think about 10 years from now between the Levy brothers and
I know.
like other projects that they're going to bring to life.
There's a lot of excitement, man.
Yep.
And there's a lot of really cool things happening. And, you know, man, it's just, you know, one time, I'll tell you a funny story. One time I was hanging out with, who was it? It was, probably better I don't say their names, but I was hanging out with two well-known horror personalities.
Okay.
And one of them was in like this really shitty mood. And the other one, I remember the names now. The other one turns to the dude who's having a really shitty time and says, "What the fuck are you miserable about? We're goddamn monsters in Fantasyland." And everyone just stopped and we all looked at each other. We just started laughing, and then the tension was gone.
Good.
That's what the horror family is like, man. When you're doing the convention scene, and I did it for like 10 years, you become like this weird road family. You know, it was like Carnival. It was fucking super cool, man. And
I always say the convention circuit too is like hundreds of people, another few hundred you're saying hi to passing in the hallway. You don't even know their names, but you just still know each other. Like you may have crossed in conversations. That's it's freaking gorgeous. I love it.
That's the cool thing about being a horror fan, man.
Yep.
Horror is the most passionate fan base there is. And I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, we have the best fans, or we have the best fans."
Yeah.
No, man. It's the horror genre.
Yep.
The people in it, the fans themselves, they're just incredible, you know? And I always say, you know, I seen hundreds and thousands of Pinhead tattoos. I've even seen close to over 100 Art the Clown tattoos.
Yeah, he's on the rise. I mean, everything's in there. I got Alien and Predator all over my back. My entire back's an Alien Predator fight. So
I haven't seen any or a lot of sports figure tattoos.
No.
Or I haven't seen, and I love it, but I haven't seen much Mr. Spock or Captain Kirk, you know?
Those nerds can't take the pain. They're going to sit there through that.
No, absolutely, dude. It's like when you're a horror fan, there's a sense of community and a sense of safety, because the safety comes in because we spend our lives pretty much being maligned, you know? And when we're all together in a place like that, we know that we're surrounded by the people who fucking love what we love. And therefore, that makes them insanely cool people, and everybody's always happy.
Yep.
You may run into a douche here and there, but douches are everywhere.
But yeah, unavoidable. And I could say about the conventions, that if I didn't get involved with that world, there would have been a big void in my life. And without a doubt, being an actor and director, I would have never assembled the Dark Military movies that I put out. That it would have never happened without meeting everybody through that.
Sure.
It would never have happened.
It's an ecosystem, man, and it's a small one. People, I think, would be really shocked if they actually knew how small the horror community is. It's very tight knit.
Yeah.
We don't have a union, but you know, that was one of the things that attracted me to making Dread Central. It was that, you know, I started thinking, you know, I grew up in New York and Brooklyn, so I'm like, wow, I have access to all of these cool conventions like the Weekend of Horrors and Chiller Theater. And I said to myself, what does the person who lives in Middle America have? How does he or she get their fix? And I just was like, wow, I feel terrible that there are people out there who just have nowhere to go.
Uh-huh.
So creating Dread Central for me was to give the horror fans, no matter where they were, a place to gather and a place to talk about this shit. And that's what we did. And that was that was another thing I'm so humbled for, or humbled by. I know I am the luckiest person alive. Maybe not monetarily, but I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah.
Maybe, to me, success is doing what you love and going to bed at night and saying to yourself, I did the best that I could, doing something that I love. And that to me is success. I mean, money is nice. I've lived without it my whole life, I don't care. But, it's just the way it is, man. I mean, even Dread Central, I did that for 18 years? We didn't make a dime on Dread Central for like 8 years. 8 fucking
You got to
years.
put the work in. That's all everything is we got to put the work in.
And it was always so frustrating because you would see like people would post, oh, well, these guys, these are all their friends and blah, 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 blah. And the studios are paying them off to give good reviews. And I'm like,
what's it, Rotten Tomatoes?
I'm like, dude, please fucking pay me off.
Yeah.
I could use something to eat other than ramen noodles and a Little Debbie snack cake. Can you please fucking buy me out something,
Funny. So another area you got involved with was Never Sleep Again. You got
man, holy shit, what a ride that was. That was actually my first taste of producing, and what a trial by fire that was.
Yeah, I mean, I did one documentary in my life, Pennsylvania Hardcore, which was only filmed in Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, but I'm sure you had a lot of traveling to do, probably a lot of more groundwork.
No, actually, I was pretty much centralized in my location, but
this is when you were at Cali, right?
Yes,
okay.
But Never Sleep Again was filmed in several countries, in several states,
because of all the actors where they lived.
Yes,
you had to go to them, right?
Yeah, a lot of times.
Yeah.
And you're sending remote crews here, you're sending remote crews there, and we ended up with. And first of all, let me say again, yes, I worked on it. I consider myself a small part of that machine. That machine, Never Sleep Again, is as good as it is because of the work of Buzz Wallach, because of the work and dedication of Andrew Cash and Daniel Farrens and everyone who worked on that movie. But those cats in particular went above and beyond. And we ended up with hundreds of hours of footage. Hundreds of hours.
There's like a 5-hour version out there. Yeah, same thing with his name was Jason and the one for Michael. Yeah, I know there's like 5 hours.
And it was Tommy Hudson, who is probably one of the best editors out there, who took that footage and found the narrative for Never Sleep Again. Because hundreds of hours, what's your narrative going to be, And
I had about 100 for mine. I had to slim it down to 90 minutes. Like, trust me, you're cutting out good stuff too, but you got to get the point out, and you can't have people there forever.
That was it too, though, because I mean, you have this Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and there's so many entries. You can't do 90 minutes. It won't work. It'll be like, all right, let's talk about this, and now let's talk about that.
Should have been a weekly show.
Well,
I mean, a 10-part weekly show, even.
If you look at Never Sleep Again, it was, once we knew it was going to be 4 hours, we were like, fuck, no one's going to watch this. But
except for us.
Well, then, the decision was made to edit each part like it was its own separate segment. And then we figured people would watch it in increments, like, oh, they'll watch all the Nightmare 1 stuff here and Nightmare 2 stuff at a different time and Nightmare 3 and so on and so forth. And it blew our fucking minds when people were sitting down and watching the whole thing in one sitting. We never expected anybody to do that. And we're all so very proud of that. I mean, that was a dream project. Our mission with that was to make sure there was never, ever, ever another reason to do another documentary on Nightmare on Elm Street. And there's not.
Now,
And after that, everybody wanted us to make, oh, well, you should do one on this and we should do one on that. And I'm like, no,
yeah.
no, we raised that bar. We jumped over that fucking thing. We're kind of done because, you don't want to, there's no way, even if we all repeated the same exact work ethic, which actually put co-director Andrew Cash in the hospital because from exhaustion, there was just, that was it. That project was nightmare.
It's so
Was a
much running around. It's so much running around.
it's called a nightmare, but it was a dream project. And Never Sleep Again ended up being the mantra of all of the filmmakers working on it because we didn't sleep. We just kept going. And, you know, just you can't replicate that.
No, you can't.
There are other projects that deserve that kind of treatment, but I think it's better off.
Something new, like 20 years from now, if there's 4 Terrifiers, like that's something like that. You could bring it up, but like you don't need another Jason. That last, his name was
Crystal Lake Memories, also directed by Daniel Farrens, is the be all end all Friday.
Yes, it is.
Never Sleep Again is the be all end all nightmare documentary.
And unfortunate with like all the franchises we're talking about now, every 5-10 years, this is part of life. Cast members, crew, pass on. And you know what I mean? So like freezing them now, the days we had was like awesome.
Yeah, once Wes Craven and Toby Hooper died, I was like, could someone please send a SWAT team in an ambulance to John Carpenter's house to make sure that he's okay for the next one?
I know.
It's like we're losing him out at an alarming rate, and we can't afford to.
I got a weird feeling he's going to be around a long. Yeah, I just see him being our Stan Lee, like he's 95, 96.
God bless him. I love him to death. His wife Sandy, such a sweet person. That's another thing, man. I mean, I got to, there's so many things I'm so thankful for. I'm thankful for you for giving a fuck about what I have to say.
Absolutely, brother. I mean, I'm just more mad that I didn't like get to know you in the last couple of years. Like you're more of like one of my newer friends, but hey, I had you outside there in the backyard for the outdoor screenings and stuff, and you're welcome all the time. Like
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
You saw my wall with all the icons on it and stuff. So yeah, I try to.
It's funny. When I left Dread Central, I was scared. Not gonna lie. At that point, both Sid hadn't passed yet, but George had passed, and Sid was really sick. And I was spiraling, man. I was like, this is over. I don't know what I'm gonna. I'm only good at one thing, and it's this. And without Dread Central, I'm like, I don't exist. I don't know what to do. And then it became apparent to me that Sid and George had given me so much and taught me so much. And I carry that with me, and I consider it the biggest blessing I could have ever had to be able to pass on some of the things they taught me to younger filmmakers, and I take that very seriously, and I have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of insight of how these two legends were and how their train of thought would follow. And I said to myself, it ain't over. I just got to find a new thing. And before I knew it, I started producing like on the regular, and I became a WGA writer, and things have been great, and now I produced a movie called Allegoria from director Spider One of the band Powerman 5000. And
okay, awesome.
It's coming out soon. We got some good news that'll be revealed shortly. I'm working on this anthology that came about through a Clubhouse with a bunch of super talented people like Josh Stolberg, who produced Saw and wrote a lot of the Saw movies, with Jed Shepard, who did Hosts, with Alex Noyer, Sound of Violence, David McInerney, who's one of the premier writing agents like working in the industry, and and it's been such a blessing getting to know and work with these people, and I've befriended so many of them. People that are going to become huge names. I can almost guarantee it, and it's good, man. It was really nice to know that the time wasn't up. There was more left to do.
You hit it. You hit what every man hits, and you might even hit it again. Like you hit a crossroads. You know,
After a defining moment at 3, what else could happen?
Yeah,
I had my midlife crisis at 14.
there you go. Yeah. What would you say? Because you've been there since you were 3 years old. What do you think is like the number one problem with horror movies right now? Like for me, things that jump out is just not being original. And second, I'll take it back to a post I saw from you. The new Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out. I know you said you liked it. I didn't like or dislike it, but my problem with the film, I think the way these things are being written, I didn't like any of the cast. I couldn't root for anybody in that movie. I could root for Nancy and the Elm Street Children. I could root for Tommy Jarvis. I could root for Jamie Lloyd in Halloween. Those kids, like, they were unlikable.
Yeah, but
what is happening?
But you know what? They were supposed to be unlikable, so you could root for Leatherface.
Well, they did their job with that one, but I think that's not just that movie, though. Is that what we're going for? Is that what? Are we just rooting for the killer because the killer's the good guy? Is that the new way?
It's part of it for sure, but I think the main problem, and it's not just the horror industry, it's all film in general. I mean, we live in a time where movies are basically made now by committee. You have to sit there and you have to hit all these boxes and check this box and check that box. And back in the 70s and 80s, filmmakers didn't have to do that. Instead, their main focus was making the best movie that they could. So now there's so much more for a filmmaker to contend with. And that's sad, but
they're owned by studios, so you got Suits there.
So I mean,
checking the boxes and stuff. Do you even think they're bringing in the right people, or is it just we got a comedy, we got an action, we got a drama film? You write all three of these, just take the bullet points.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, there are original movies out there. It's just that nobody gets to see them. They are now because of things like Shudder and streaming services like that, where you could see things you normally wouldn't have had a chance to see. But there's a movie playing right now called The Cursed, which I cannot believe is in movie theaters, because we don't get horror movies like that no more. The Cursed is probably the best horror movie experience I've had in a theater in forever. And it's a movie that knows exactly what it is, and it sticks to it. It's scary. It's not funny at all. It's a balls to the wall horror movie. And I watched it and I was just blown away. I was like, holy shit. You see, but these things are out there. But the problem is they don't make as much money as a reimagining or a reboot or another sequel of this and another thing of that.
I totally get, not sounding hypocritical, like throwing what I just said under the bus, but I get when you bring a Leatherface in, you bring Michael Myers and Jamie Lee in diapers back. It's like it's already something we know. You don't have to market from the ground up compared to something brand new because it costs money.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that, and it's like you love those icons, but you wonder what do they have left to say in the way things go like that sometimes,
Well, I mean, we live in a world of saturation. Now, what is left to say? Where are the original voices? And that's why movies like Cursed, to me, are incredible, because we don't get, and that's the magic of Terrifier. Okay, Terrifier, Damien Leone made the best 80s slasher without trying to make an 80s slasher. You know, his focus, it was on making the best movie he could, and it's very simplistic. You know, it has a very simple story, a very effective killer that David Howard Thornton fucking nails, and it's a ride. You know, and it's also an unrelenting ride, and we've all at one time or another have had to apologize for one scene in particular and try to say, hey man, it's just that's like the moment of the movie where people are either all in or I'm fucking out of here. And I love it for that. It's been called misogynistic, but you know what? So many women have come up to me since the movie's release and said, I didn't think that was misogynistic at all. I thought that was fucking awesome.
There's always going to be a stigmatism to that. And, I saw, not spoiling anything, but I saw a good scene in the next movie, Damien showed.
I've seen several, I know.
I'd say it might be topped. It's up to the fans, obviously, to make the call, but we're saying there's something super interesting coming.
There's so much chaos in part 2.
Yeah.
There's so much chaos in part 2.
I'm so happy to say, like, I was there for 15, 16 days of that shoot too, because I just know this is a part of history, and I could say I watched some of this stuff or helped some of it come to life.
You know what another good part of Terrifier is?
Oh, I totally know it. You mean all David Art the Clown's dialogue, right?
Yeah. The man is brilliant, James.
I don't know how David remembered all his lines. That's so weird.
The cool part about Terrifier, and I think this is the coolest part, is anyone who sees it within probably a half an hour will know for a fact that no studio would ever touch this movie with a 10-foot pole. And kudos to Epic for taking the chance. Good on them.
That's a film that does not check the boxes.
No. What I find to be the coolest part about that is the fact that it's the fans' franchise. This is a movie that the fans own. It's never going to be, a Blumhouse release or a fucking Universal release or a Paramount release. This is a movie that fans are looking for. And there are more and more, dude. I see little kids dressed as Art the Clown. I see women dressed as Art the Clown. I see little girls dressed as Art the Clown. It's insane. There are murals all over the world.
Yep.
I mean, holy shit.
Right when it came out, I'm talking about before it really blew up. I remember going to like Monster Mania, and there were girls made their own dolls and they're carrying them around. And I was just like, wow, like that fast. I didn't even really know David and Damien yet. And I was like, wow, that fast. I was like, wow. But
dude, I had done a Texas Frightmare, and it was maybe several months, maybe like 2-3 months after the movie was released, and there were already t-shirts and merchandise, and none of it, of course, was licensed, but people just started making their own shit, and they continue to do this. And I was like, holy shit, we're really onto something here. Because if people are taking the time to make their own t-shirts and their own collectibles, wow.
Yeah.
It's starting to resonate. And I don't think any of us, from me to Damien to Phil to the Levy brothers to David himself, I don't think any of us, it's almost like the situation, and don't get me wrong, I am so not putting our little film in the same category as a Halloween, but when people go back and they ask Carpenter, did you ever expect this movie to become the blah blah blah? I don't think any of us ever in a million years, just by given the fact of the film's content, would have ever have thought that it would become what it's become and what it continues to become. And hey, dude, there's an Art the Clown Appreciation Society on Facebook. shout out to them.
That's right.
I mean, it's just it's
I
insane.
will ask if I can do the live stream here for when it actually drops. I'll hit up Sean.
It's just so crazy, and we're all so blessed. I mean, sometimes I just text Damien and David randomly, and I just say, "I love you." That's it. That's all I say to them, man. And it. I'm so lucky, and we're so lucky, and at the end of the day, the fans win because not only are they going to get another Terrifier, I think that they're going to get something that gives them exactly what they wanted, and that's more Terrifier. Because as you know from what you've seen and from what I've seen, Art the Clown is really up to his old tricks again. But he has a bunch of new tricks too, and it's just
and a bigger budget. So yeah, we had more time to really get it right.
Crazy. Damien said, one of the questions I get asked daily, literally, I get asked at least once a day is, when's Terrifier 2 coming out? And I think Damien put it the best when he said, let's just pretend that it's coming out in time for Halloween, and if it comes out earlier, be happy. Look at it that way. It is coming. It does exist.
One thing about fans, they don't understand the turtle crawl, which is called editing. They don't understand that.
You know what, though?
Yeah.
I don't fault them because it's from passion.
Oh, by far. Yeah.
They're excited. And that makes us excited, And I can't wait for people to see what the fuck Damien and everyone is cooked up, because it's goddamn deranged, man. If you thought the first film was bloody, holy shit, are you in for a ride?
Sweet. Well, I thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Yes, and I thank everybody who took the time to listen to this podcast, especially everybody in the Art the Clown Appreciation Society. We got a new show every Monday morning. Please give us that smash button on YouTube and feel free to leave a comment. And with that, I will see you next time. Thank you. Thank you.